Computer, yes. Hi, everyone. This is Christine Whitmarsh with Christine Inc. and Inc. Authors, and here we are for another one of our expert Q&As for my Inc. Authors group on Facebook. So if you're watching this on YouTube or it's been shared on your social media network and you don't know what I'm talking about, please look up the Inc. Authors Facebook group and send me a request to join, and I'll most likely admit you into the group. So I am here with a friend and client and colleague of mine, Kim Fiske, and she is, I'm going to go into the bio here of who she is. Kim Fiske is a respected speaker, author, and thought leader who is sought after for her ability to convey to audiences provocative concepts and practical ways to identify and navigate what she has coined the monster under the bed, which is such a cool phrase. Kim is a Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP practitioner, certified coach of life planning, CCLP, a 7-figure income earner in relationship marketing, and she is also a member of various national and international business networking and marketing organizations. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Wow. Thanks for that long introduction.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
We edited. It's fine.
I know. Please. So, yeah, I'm very appreciative of the chance to visit with you, and you've been such a help to me over the last couple of years.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. I love, when I can, initially speak with someone and the idea is a book, and then through, various means, ways, and help, like you just said, all of a sudden it becomes a book. I have the book here on my shelf here. As a matter of fact, here's Kim's book. Look, it's like magic. All my clients' books are on my shelf. It makes it really good for opportunities like this. Fantastic cover.
Yeah.
Who did the cover again?
What?
Who did your cover again? You can give them a shout out.
You know what? Oh, I should know that, but it was such a conglomeration. I really don't even know who to give the massive credit to.
That's a good point.
It was like, whoa, probably I sent it to you. You might have had some suggestions. And that wasn't at all the original cover idea at all. Like, I was going completely a different direction. Mm-hmm. And then a book expert somewhere in the world said no to my original idea. And, when you're such a novice, as you know, this is why you do what you do, is because I'm really a speaker even. I'm not even an author.
Yeah.
I am now, but like, that isn't my expertise. And so, yeah, what do I know? Like, what is this? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? I don't know.
And covers and titles can be so tricky, I found, just in all my years of experience. And what I found with covers and titles, it's either you just know it from day one, or it takes almost until the printer is saying, I need your book to turn, your manuscript into a book. Please give me a cover and a title. And it's like, oh God, we still don't know. So it never seems to be an in-between process. It's either like really easy or really hard. That's just my experience.
Well, this was really hard. So this was the hard one because, well, and here's the thing, it's a life lesson too, I think, because, we know what we know and we know what we don't know. Like, I know that I know how to play the piano and I know how to sing, and I know that, and I know, and I'm a speaker, and I know that I don't know brain surgery and, yeah, like I know I don't know that. But honestly, when it comes to this, it's like it was a fine line between how much do I trust my ignorant instincts in a way, because your instincts are still at the mercy of your knowledge and training and experience. So I could have dug my feet in and said, no, I really, 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 and I'm not saying if you do that, that's wrong either. But it's kind of like you have to be open to what you don't know that you don't know, and listen from a new place of, So if there had been a mixed signal about my book cover, maybe I could have gone with my instincts, but it definitely was not a mixed signal. Every expert said no to my initial book cover. So I went, okay, I wanted to submit myself to the people that know what they're doing.
Yeah. And that's such a common thing, especially with the authors I work with. I mean, I work with expert authors, so people who are experts in their body of knowledge, and just like you are in your world. And it is, some of them require, and you understood it very instinctively, what you know and what you don't know. You know your areas of expertise. But translating that area of expertise into a book, that's a whole new area of expertise in itself. So it's great that you knew that, and message to all authors, there's a difference. So
huge.
Yeah. So take us back a couple of years to when this book, the very, very first time, I think it was a few years ago, right? When the book idea came about, the idea that you should write a book, and tell us how that happened.
Yeah. Well, a couple years ago is when I reached out to you about it, but the idea has been brewing, and it ended up taking on a life of its own. It wasn't, in fact, the monster under the bed, that phrase and that story, I've done a lot of training and I have a large sales commission business, relationship marketing business. So it's a lot about, how overcoming fear of talking to people or inviting people or letting people know about what you're doing. Well, that creates a lot of fear in people. And so I've used that idea of the monster under the bed. It's like, it's scarier than what it really is going to be. It's really a fear. It's not really, it's not going to be scary once you just go do it. Lift up, run to the roar, so to speak, and lift up the bedspread. So that theory, I've taught and trained that idea. But then when it was time, when I was feeling inspired of writing a book, I thought, well, I'm just going to put all my little training tidbits in a book. And then that ended up changing. Like, Christine, this book has had, it has, it's
so common.
And I know it's probably very, very normal, but it was very different than I expected. Very different. The process was refining and horrible and wonderful and horrible. And, it kind of was creating a life of its own. And very, like I said, it went a direction that it took me by surprise, but then once I was on that road, it felt like it was like pulling me. It was like, no, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. I know you kind of had that idea, but is my internet wonky? Like, have I been?
You're okay. You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get little messages. So I wonder. Anyway, so yeah, I wish I could, for me anyway, some other people might just go, oh my gosh, I sat down and I just went like this and something took over my hand and it just came out and I couldn't stop it. It's like, that is not what happened to me.
Sometimes that happens in fiction, and sometimes that happens for maybe a day, but that's not common. And what's interesting, what you're saying is, I think there is a lot out there in my space, especially of, you're an expert in your field of knowledge. You should write a book. And sometimes I think the promise of writing a book is a little oversimplified. Just, top 10 ways to do this thing that you do awesome in your job, and you're just going to write a book about it. I'm really I'm the buzzkill, as you know. The first time we met, I'm the buzzkill. I'm the one that comes along and says, all right, well, I only work with people if I'm going to help them write a great book. So there's your first problem. It's going to take longer than you think. Remember, we had that conversation. It's going to take longer. It's going to be hard.
Gosh.
Yeah, the book is going to be a lot deeper and more complex because I don't do simple top 10 ways I'm awesome in my job books. So it's going to be, longer, and it's going to be harder, and it's going to be more complex, and I'm going to have to teach you a master's course in writing, and it's just going to be a lot worse than you think. And I remember, I think your initial reactions to this were not positive.
Like, shut up. What are you talking about? This needs to be out next month. What are you talking about? Let's go.
And
oh my God.
I don't do that. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Because and you know what? Here's the sum result of this is this book it took longer. It is deeper. It is more transformative. I mean, this amazing book you did, it actually, and I'm sure hopefully you've received feedback from your readers. It's having a deep impact on people because I'm kind of a buzzkill.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is, and there's a fine line here between, how many times I'd go, it was so refining because to your point, you think, well, I'm an expert in my field. Well, I'm a cerebral expert in my field, right? But when it goes into like that book, I had to face so many of my monsters under my bed to write. And then by the time I'd get through, I'd be in a fetal position, rocking, crying. No. I mean, I'm like, no, I can't do this. This is too hard. Because, okay, this is another thing. I'm a speaker. And I'm very entertaining when I speak, as you might be able to tell, because I'm very animated. You know what I mean? And so when I speak, I can get away with a ton of unclarity. Like, I can just be like, okay, and people go, oh, wow, yeah, that was really good. That was really good. But writing it, forcing me to write down exactly what I mean by that, and then going, wait, oh, crap, okay, I know. And then this was the killer. When I got towards the end, then, you know, it took me like maybe 6 months to get from the chapter 1 premise, like you'd say, okay, tell your readers what the promise is going to be at the beginning, tell them what they're going to get out of it. And then as I got to the end, I'd go, oh, wait, what did I say I was going to give? And then did I do that? And then because every principle would go deeper and deeper inside me. No, I didn't really mean that. Well, what do you really mean by that? Okay, here's what I really mean. And it took soul searching, and it took ripping my guts out to figure out what that really meant. And then I'd go, oh crap, chapter 8. I got to go back and redo chapter 2, because I've kind of contradicted myself somewhat. Like I wasn't clear enough in chapter 2. Oh my gosh, Christine. It was like, yeah. And it might not be that way for everybody.
I'm throwing whatever I was going to ask you. This is so much better. That was like the best. I think that was the best reenactment of the first time author experience I've ever seen.
And that was nothing compared to what it really was. I mean, this is just a drop.
Yeah, I was in the audience for that. Yeah. Reenactment of the theatrical reenactment of the first time author experience. That was awesome.
Well, it's
what was I going to ask you? What are your joys and challenges, and what surprised you? I think you pretty much covered it.
Yeah. Well, oh wait, there's one more. Another answer came to me when you just asked that. So the other thing, and probably in your coaching you said this, but again, words don't teach us. Like you've got to be kind of ready to hear what, and you teach yourself when it's time, by the way, but your information is really good to have around. But when I'm ready to hear it, I'll hear it. Like I wasn't ready to hear, oh, this can't be done in a month. What? Anyway,
that was funny.
One of the things I would suggest for any of your authors, and they probably already know it because it might be a common but well, you know what it was? I was going to do the audio book. I was going to record it, and I knew that was going to happen, and I was looking for studios that would let me do it. A lot of studios don't let authors record their own books, by the way. Yeah. So that was an interesting process. But here's what I did. I went, well, I'm a theater director. I mean, really in my life, I've done music and theater directing. So I know the importance of practicing. So I started just going, okay, and this was before I actually sent the printed copy in. I wanted to kind of have it all ready to go. And to read your book out loud, not in your mind. Oh my gosh, because by the way, you don't hear or see, or none of those things happen with your eyes or ears. They happen in your mind. Yep. And your mind will actually fill in blanks, change words that aren't even there. If you just read it with your mind, you're going to be messed up. You got to read it out loud. Yep.
That's my last round of, I have a blog post on my website, christine-inc.com about I have a 5-round self-editing process. And I think that's the 5th round is reading out loud. I learned that years ago when I wrote screenplays, and I forgot the name of the famous screenwriting program. It was the big, famous one at the time. It had the green cover. Anyway, I had the famous everybody had the screenwriting program, and I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, one of its features, which was pretty a revolutionary feature for the late 1990s, where the screenplay, you could even assign little computer voices to all the dialogue parts in your screenplay, and it would read it out loud back to you. And that's how I would edit my screenplays. Is it Script Doctor? Anyway, it was the green one. Anyway,
green one.
So I do that with books. I've done that with books ever since, because and that's exactly one of the things that I teach my authors, where your brain reads what you think you wrote. So reading out loud is absolutely great round of the self-editing process. When I say self-editing process, to make the distinction, everybody needs an outside editor for their manuscript. I'm talking about all the things that you will do before you send it to a professional editor.
Oh,
Yep.
you know what? And I got to just say, you were so helpful with all of that. Like, I thought I was, I thought this way. And again, because I didn't just believe what I already knew, I'd send it to you and then you'd go,
Because I have no filter.
Well, that's what you hope for. Yeah, that's, if you're going to kill it before I publish it. Right. So, yeah, it was really a refining process. Very cool, very awesome and horrible all at the same time. Like, it was just this, but at the end of the day, to your point, I have to say first of all, I'm also very glad I did Audible, because a lot of people really don't read books anymore. They want to do it while they're driving. They listen to podcasts, or they audiobooks or iTunes. So the book, I did find a studio that let me record with my own voice, because like, I am a speaker, so I can understand. I have heard some authors speak, and I probably wouldn't last long on their book if they aren't entertaining or informative and stuff like that. But in fact, where I did my audiobook, the guy who was saying, well, we're not really a fan of authors doing their own recording, but I'll let you, but plan on double the time and plan on more money spent to studio time. At the end of the first day, he goes, we are making really good time. I think we're going to be fine cutting your time in half. And could you move here and be one of my voice actors?
Yeah, it's like, by the way, I'm an actress. Yeah, and I'm the same. I have the same plans to do when I'm releasing my memoir later this year, The Power of the Curve. So probably next year when I turn it into an audiobook, same thing, because I have the acting experience. I've been told by every radio show I've ever been on that I should have a radio show. I'm going to get my podcast going at some point. So yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And to this point, I notice just in our participants list, we have Chris Kepler. And Chris, I'm just going to give you the opportunity. You don't have to come on air if you don't want to, but if you want to, appear on video here. Oh, there she is. And I'm going to unmute you because Chris.
I'm here.
Here we go. Chris is an audiobook expert. Chris is an audiobook expert and a consultant. And I would love for Chris, for you to chime in on this conversation, since you are absolutely the expert in the room on this.
Yeah, it's I think people underestimate, especially authors, how much time it really takes to, narrate your book and how much is involved. Mm-hmm. And if you want to narrate your own book, the best thing to do is find a reputable studio that will obviously allow you to narrate your own book. Because some authors, it's, if they're speakers, it's fine. You're probably going to do a great job. And some authors, it's like, probably not. But the best thing is to find a reputable studio or hire a pro.
Yeah.
To do it, because that's going to be the fastest, easiest, quickest way for you to get your book out there, because audiobooks are just hot, and so many people are listening, and it keeps growing. So you're losing, income if you're not getting your book into an audiobook format.
Yeah, that's very true. And what's interesting is, even in the studio, I had an iPad, the engineer had an iPad, and we were reading from the same script, right? So I was just doing this, but there were times still, I had read that book out loud probably at least 3 to 5 times right before I went to that studio, just cleaning it up. But see, the thing is that it had already been sent to print really by the time I'd fixed huge amounts of problems early on, but then I was still checking, double checking, triple checking. And even when I got in the studio, I'm like, I like what I said better than what I wrote.
Oh, no.
So this isn't a whisper sync. Like the guy told me Amazon has this whisper sync, but it has to be exact. And I went, okay, I'm going to sacrifice whisper sync just because I like what I said in my audio. Better, so it's okay.
I'm amazed at because that's I've got what I usually get, what are, fully edited manuscripts. And I'm going along going, oh, whoops. What did they really mean? No, I don't think it's supposed to say.
Oh, shoot.
Okay. Oh, I think this is how it's supposed to go.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and this is all the time.
Oh.
All the time.
Wow.
I mean, I'm talking just like contraction stuff, for
Yeah.
me. Like you have or you've. Like that kind of stuff. That's really the only things I made, maybe a word here and there, but not big changes. So, wow.
Oh, no, this is like, wait a minute. This doesn't sound quite right. I think there's a word missing. Or
Wow.
so then I have to. And it's every time. So yeah, there is some, you're going to do, and I can imagine an author doing that. It's like reading along and then you're going, wait, that didn't sound quite right. Maybe I should, because you run into it I run into it all the time. Yeah.
Really interesting. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for chiming in. Yeah, and if anybody wants to, if anybody wants help, if you're doing an audiobook, or if you even want to know more reasons why you should do an audiobook, Chris Kepler, she is a member of the Inc. Authors group on Facebook, so feel free to tag her in a post and ask her questions. Thank you, Chris.
Yes, I am happy to answer any question you have.
All right, okay, here we go. Okay, so Kim, we keep talking about the, I don't know why it hasn't switched back yet here. We keep talking about this monster under the bed, and so we've talked about your book writing experience with that. But now, tell us about the monster in the bed and the whole concept and what it is.
It really is just this awareness of, over the years when I've coached and mentored and trained people, no matter their income, their external world at all, it would not matter how great and glorious and perfect it seemed outwardly. Everyone had this little voice that just said, I'm not good enough, I'm not okay, I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy, I'm not smart. Some configuration of I'm just not okay. And I had it myself too, and I was like noticing patterns in my life and looking back and going, why was I driven? And why did I feel like, on rails about this? Or why did I avoid and shun and run away from that? And I remember just going, this is really interesting. So I just started back to the question of, when I decided to write the book, it moved from just being a topic that I would train on about overcoming, like a sales fear or something, to like, well, what is that voice? Where does it come from? And so I researched it. Actually, I'm just very interested in brain stuff and mind stuff. And I'm a huge reader. And I just started reading about and putting things together in my own mind about our young survival brain. That's all you're born with, basically, other than your body functioning brain, like that keeps your heart pounding and your hair growing and things like that. But in terms of cognition, you only have your survival brain that's fully functioning at birth. And so without a logical brain that doesn't fully develop till the mid-20s around for people, you're going to be, your whole identity is going to be created by survival messages of your survival brain only speaks emotion, and it doesn't have any connection to anything logical because it's just not connected there. And so it will only give fight, flight, freeze messages back to you when it senses that something's wrong. And without a logical brain, a little kid doesn't have much hope of things not being wrong. Like, I even have this theory about poop. Can I tell you my poop theory?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, because I believe the flight message probably happened first. The limbic brain, amygdala brain saying, run away, don't let them see. Because we all need everyone to take care of us when we're little. That's part of our programming as well. We've got to be okay in our environment. People have to like us. People have to take care of us. So without even language or logic about it, we just are wired to make sure people are happy. This is where people pleasing really gets embedded, and we still suffer. A lot of people still suffer from it as adults. Well, so I believe flight was that first feeling that we felt, and I wasn't sure, and I don't really go back to when it exactly happened. That's more like therapy. But I just talk about, that feeling of, I'm not okay, I better hide. So as a mom, I remember the poop theory didn't make the book So you're hearing things not in the book right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shame is the #1 monster track. I have 10 right now monster tracks in the book. I've discovered 2 more since the book, by the way. All kinds of stuff, because it's not done yet, right? I just needed to be done with that book, right, Christine? Be done with it.
No
be done.
Nope.
Exactly. So monster track #1 is shame. And I think it is shame and self-judgment are the 2 that just go hand in hand and keep cycling all the other ones around us. But shame. So listen to this theory I had. I remember thinking about behavior that my children had at around the ages of, like, not potty trained yet, but toddling around in a diaper, not even trying to be potty trained, like maybe 1 or 2 or something like that. But they were, walking around. And I remember thinking, they exhibited, all 4 of my boys exhibited, and grandkids. I've noticed it in lots of kids. And I wonder how many of the listeners are going to notice this too. There was a behavior that was complete shame behavior, if I thought about it. Like when they had to poop at those ages, where would I find them? They would disappear for a little bit. And then they'd come out all red-eyed, like they'd been grunting, and they came out from behind a couch or from under a table or from in a closet or in a corner. Like they went away to go poop. And I'm like, well, that's definite shame behavior. Like what, but why did they didn't do it to pee. And why would a little kid, how did they get shame from pooping? Because we have to poop, right? To live. And they pooped their whole life, and it's everybody poops and da, da, da. Like where did they get, you didn't know this show was going to be about poop, did you? Anyway.
I love our interview.
Where did they get that they needed to go hide? And so it hit me. What do we do when we change a poopy diaper? I don't know what everybody does, but like I would go, oh, this is stinky. Oh, this stinky. Or if you're my husband, like start gagging and say, Kim, it's a bad one. Come in here. I can't do it. Right? So, but the kid, now without language, logic, or reasoning, imagine that little 3-month-old, 6-month-old baby laying there. And it doesn't take long. Neural connections are being made by the millions per second.
Yeah. Whoops. You just froze up. I don't know if you can hear me.
Wires together.
There you are.
And oh, sorry. Did I stop?
You're back now.
Okay. So Hebb's law says what fires, neurons that fire together, wire together. And little babies, like even newborn babies, cortisol levels will rise if there's fighting or negativity around them. They feel it. It's an emotional, because their survival brain is fully functioning at birth. So they don't have to know what's happening. There's no language or understanding. They sense an energy. And so when we've changed these poopy diapers from however young they started making these connections, there's something wonky about these people. I'm not sure what these people are thinking about this behavior, because they do this weird thing with their face, and there's a feeling that's different when people change a poopy diaper. It's just my theory. It doesn't have to be right. But when they start having to do this now with more cognition, those fires and wires have been connected deeply in their synapses of their brain, of their identity. Like, oh, there's even, since I've had this theory, I've had so many people reach out. And I think I'd had this problem too when I was young. There's a lot of kids that get constipated because they don't want to poop. And they're embarrassed of pooping. And I had a kid that wouldn't go to the bathroom or poop in a public restroom. Like there's a lot of poop issues. And maybe it started with this feeling of, I'm not okay when I do this, because they act kind of funny about it. And I'm not sure. So anyway, it's just a poop theory.
Addendum to the book.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Poop Monster. That's my next book. But
Kids book about poop. Yeah.
Kids book. But you know what? It's those feelings of flight that I'm not okay, whether it be from poop or just I said something stupid when I was in preschool. They laughed at me. Like I'm not smart enough is a huge one. Lots of people, that's their thing. I don't want anyone to know that I'm not smart. Yeah. So therefore, the amygdala also sends a fight message saying, you've got to be okay. So you better be smart. You better be perfect. You better go prove that you are going to be okay in your environment. So what did we do? We looked around at our families and said, oh, okay, my family's all in the military, or my families all get straight A's and they got, they went to college and they're all very smart, or my family's in sports. My family was in music. So I grew up singing and playing the piano and performing on stage. I mean, it's never been a problem. The issue is this, and none of those things are problems in and of themselves. The issue is when your identity at the deepest level is tied to what you think you, number one, can't show because it's so bad. And that's the feeling. It's just an emotion. It makes no sense. Yeah. But the feeling is they can't know. I'm going to hide, or I'm going to prove that I'm okay. So the phrase in the book says, you can never get enough of what you never needed to begin with. Because that's the lie. Under the bed was this monster that made you feel like you weren't okay, and you weren't unconditionally loved, intrinsically valuable, inherently perfect. You didn't ever need to do anything. You didn't need to, nothing. You were perfect. You were wonderful. You were awesome. But it took brain equipment you didn't have yet to understand that. So that's the brain I'm speaking to in the book and right now. Because you can go investigate that voice. I call it chatter. You can go investigate it. And what was fired together, like by the emotional thing I talked about, firing and wiring, that's how we were created, with our emotional, illogical, kind of insane brain. Yep. And you can now go unwire that and rewire it based on, now you get to choose, because you don't have to be at the mercy of your little 2-year-old self that, without investigation, we're hijacked by. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's amazing how we are. And I was thinking about something, I don't know, because you're the world traveler and always running around, but I don't know if you saw that I did a comedy performance routine in a show called Hush at my circus school in February. Also, people just message me on Facebook and I'll tell you the video of the complete show. I mean, aerialists, people hanging from chains, eating fire, trapeze, silks, the whole thing. And I did a comedy burlesque Betty White routine with the walker and the I have an acting background too. We have this in common, Kim. I did comedy in LA for years, and I studied comedy. So I got to really go. I haven't done comedy acting in 20 years. So that was super fun. I mean, you know me, I'm like I totally run to the roar, because I'm just like, oh yeah, this is going to be the craziest thing I've ever done on stage. I can't wait to do it. So people tell me I did very well. That's an understatement. The video is available now of the entire routine. But what's really interesting about this show is at the end, the last thing that we all did before the big finale dance number, and believe me, that was, battling some monsters, me having to do the opening and finale dance numbers. I'm not a dancer, but I became one. We all wrote on a white poster board our biggest, deepest concern about ourselves. So our biggest insecurity. And we all walked out through the curtains one at a time with our sign, and we handed it to the host of the show, and he, ripped it in half, and it was like this whole ceremonial, let's get rid of this crap. And you wouldn't believe I'm not smart enough. I remember I'm not smart enough. I'm not blank enough. There was just the I'm not enough that I saw on sign after sign after sign. I thought that was really interesting. That completely plays to your book. And that was really interesting. And my second thought is, so I just saw that happen live. It was very interesting seeing what was on everybody's poster boards. And I also want to talk about, authors now. So let's apply the monster under the bed concept and, the lie that drives us to authors. So what do you think, what kind of monsters do you think that authors, especially first-time authors, would be battling?
Well, again, I know the word monster is used plural. It's really, in my theory, it's one, and that is I'm not okay. And then it's kind of a hydra, how it plays out, right? So it has many heads. So it depends. If you're a person that you have to be perfect before you can do anything, just notice it. It's not something to beat yourself up about. In fact, someone said to me once after they read the book, they're like, Kim, and I am doing this more, Christine, in my work. I'm actually going into more strategies. I'm going to spend almost 2.5 months in Europe this summer getting all the way trained in NLP, because all the way through Train the Trainer, because there's so much cool unwiring, rewiring that can happen like this. Yep. And it doesn't take years of therapy, and it doesn't take, like, I'm so excited about what I've seen with NLP strategies. But some people go, Kim, I'm wearing myself to death. So these things to notice are not so that you beat yourself up more, because that can happen. You can go, oh, there I am again, judging myself for not being smart enough, judging myself for not being perfect, judging myself for not being worthy. Well, so when you move to the observer of yourself, just listen to the thought. And you're going to know how you're going to notice the thought, by the way, is how you feel. The emotion will follow the thought. But you're not going to notice the thought first. You're going to notice how you feel first. And when you feel like crap and you feel like you want to go hide, you feel like one way or the other, you feel like really driven, either to hide and don't let anybody see, or I got to push and make sure everyone knows, like I got to prove. Anyone, I call it monster energy. Dang it. I'm so sad there's a drink called that, because I would have coined that. Monster energy. But when you feel either one of those, move to observer and go, what was the thought that preceded that? Oh, it's that I'm not smart enough. Okay. So once you're just moving to observer of it, and because here's the other thing, and this is a whole new field of new truth that I've come across, is every thought has some truth to it. Every emotion, every thought has facets to it. Because some people will go, well, it's true, Kim. I'm like, well, yes, but does it serve you to hold on to that truth? Because there's another truth. In the book, I talk about mental bloodhounds. Your brain is also geared to only let in the data you have told it is true. So if you've told your brain through emotions, which is how you do it, that you're stupid, and you've emotionally connected over your lifetime with that belief, with emotion, you won't see the times you're not stupid. That your brain won't let you see that evidence. But the minute you go, am I willing to see that differently, even about yourself? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Yeah. So when you go, well, that might be true if I put on these glasses, but if I put on, I don't have another pair, but if I put on these glasses, am I willing to see the times that I've been pretty smart, that I haven't been stupid? Like, every belief has alternate beliefs, like choose your own adventure. So if you're an author and you want to write a book and you have that feeling, that desire, you are going to, it's like Liz Gilbert in Big Magic. It's not going to be that you're going to be without the chatter or the fear. You're going to have it. Like, just know that you are. And when you hear it, you just go, switch from despondent to like, there it is. Liz Gilbert says, I just tell fear, if I'm going to create, I know I'm going to have you in my life, because they go together. Yep. But you're going to sit in the back seat and you're not going to touch any of the dials on our trip. So I'm going to hear you jabbering away back there. And thank you for sharing, because I need you. There is a part of that is needful to keep you. There is a balance of the yin and the yang, that everything has both sides to it. She calls it the shit sandwich that you're going to eat, if you want to create. Yeah. So if you want to write, just follow, number one, follow Christine. Follow Christine, because she knows the road ahead of you. Yep. And in terms of even all the emotions, especially about not being smart enough, not knowing. I don't even have a college degree, you guys. In my book, I write out a whole dictation of what I'm hearing right now in my chatter. Okay, who are you, Kim? Why is anyone going to listen to you? You're not an expert in brain science. You don't need another book about this. There's better people than you. I mean, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
What's amazing is so often this is all just under writer's block. So I mean, it's comical to me when I see, again, the oversimplification sometimes in my world, in my space, whether it's writing a book or writing in general, and, 10 ways to get past writer's block. It's like, oh my God, just, defining what you think writer's block is and how that's showing up in your life, and, and then all your stuff that is contributing, like, that's a whole book right there, and you're going to do a list of 10 ways to get past it when you don't even know what it is for yourself. So I find the writer's block articles comical, because this, I mean, everything you're talking about, that's probably one sliver of contribution to the thing that people think of as writer's block. But what happens, the sum total of that is authors, especially first-time authors, say, oh, I have writer's block, I can't do it. And then the book gets shelved, a potentially good book, a book that could potentially help people. And whether it's a fiction book that can, you know, entertain and inspire and help people escape to a different reality, or a nonfiction book that can help, you know, change their life or give them some nugget of information from the author that, like, oh my God, I'm experiencing that in my life. And just because of this one line that this author said, I just have a whole new perspective on the situation I'm dealing with in my life. So these books that could potentially be helping people and changing lives, they're put on a shelf and never written because someone believes they have writer's block, just because they don't understand all the things. So this is why, you know, especially, you know, authors, this book is required reading because I really want you to understand your minds better, because there's so many different reasons why you're not writing your book. And this aspect, the monster under the bed, the lie that is driving you to not write your book, this is definitely a contributor. So I mean, my authors know I'm always giving them a million reading recommendations. So just, you know, add this one to your arsenal.
Well, and the other thing that you brought up, there was 2 points I wanted to make. Number one is, especially if it's I think it's even true in a memoir. Don't worry about, here's where I know people get snagged is, oh, how are they going to receive what I'm saying? How are they? Like Liz Gilbert, when she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, she goes, I never wrote that for the world. I wrote it for me. It was my cathartic journaling. It was my stories. So when I would switch from, even though, yes, do I want to help people and impact people? Absolutely. But the phrase I would use in my training and coaching over the years is, you know what, just light yourself on fire and people will gather to watch you burn. So if you just sit and don't worry, because that'll snag you going, oh, how are they going to accept that? And how are they, is that going to make sense? And is that going to make sense? And how will that be? Don't worry about it. Just write to you. Yeah. Just sit there and talk to yourself and get yourself passionate about whatever it is. And guess what? People are, this was another humbling thing. People they're not reading what I'm saying. They're feeling how I'm feeling. Yep. And they're going to teach themselves something. That's why it's not what anyone says that's going to teach. You're not going to write something that's going to be revolutionary to the reader. No. What they want to do is feel your passion about what your subject is. Then that gives them permission to open up. They'll automatically get what they need from it. You don't need to teach them. You can't teach them anything anyway. You're just going to open them up. And you do that by opening you up and sitting there and going, okay, what about this for me? What about this for me? Right?
And that's the sum total. See, and what I was saying about the changing of the lives. See, yeah, that's the end of the road. So yeah, you're right. Like they shouldn't be, thinking about the end of the road while they're writing. So while they're writing, yeah, write for you. But the end of the road is, yes, it's going to, I guarantee you, every book is going to have some kind of positive impact, even if it's one little tiny nugget for one person. But yeah, don't be thinking about that while you're writing it. And I love, the way that the human mind works and all the different, valuable nuggets that we'll find by reading other people's books. And you're talking about the Elizabeth Gilbert thing in Big Magic, that story that she told about that woman that came to her book signing. You know what I'm talking about? The woman comes to her book signing and she says, oh my God, Liz, the story you told about da-da-da-da-da-da, oh, that changed my whole marriage and da-da-da-da. And Liz is sitting there smiling, going, yeah, in her mind, I never actually, I don't know what this woman's talking about. Oh, yeah, oh, you're welcome. I had no idea.
Exactly.
Obviously something that, Elizabeth said in her book, some story she told, triggered some side wiring in this woman's mind that had nothing to do with what was written in the book, but it helped her. So that's the most brilliant thing is people are going to be helped by things you don't even write in your book.
Exactly. It's awesome.
Don't worry about all these things because you can't predict it. Yeah.
No. And think about books you've read. Like the books I've read, that those things that stick out to me. And I have those same things like, well, I don't even know, even now I go, wait, who said that? And did someone really say that? Or did I say that based on something I heard somebody say in a combination of this and this and this? cares? Just get the damn thing written and just just light yourself on fire about whatever your topic is, and just start writing from passionate inside you. And don't worry about how it's going to be received. And the editing, someone else will help you with. So don't worry about sentence structure and all that stuff right now. Just get it down and be excited about it.
Yeah, there's no writer's block if you're just entertaining yourself and having a good time.
Yes.
Because then what do you block by? I mean, yeah, I think, because that's a whole different conversation for another time. But yeah, writer's block, I think it is very externally based. It's very outcome based. It's, I think writer's block is proof that you're not inside the experience by yourself playing and enjoying. It's just kind of like, a kid in a playground isn't going to have writer's block because they're in their own little world. They're having fun. They're having joy. They just made up people there that they're doing voices for and everything like that. So a writer's block is the opposite of a kid in a playground. That's my analogy.
Yes, very good. Very good analogy.
Yeah. Well, this is great. Chris, Chris, do you have any questions for Kim? You could use chat, or you can hop back on again if you do, or just let me know if you don't, because everybody else, there she is. Any questions? Questions for Kim?
I was really fascinated by the process that she went through. I'm a writer, but I'm not an author. I just write, really short blogs.
Yeah.
and comedy blogs too. So it was really fascinating to hear about your process and to learn about your book. That was really interesting.
Good. Well, you know what I've heard from people that I have conversations with, and I go, man, have you thought about writing a book? Here's the biggest, this is the lie that's coming out. Like, we reveal who we are. In fact, what we hear in conversations more reveals who we are than who the person is speaking. So remember, we see things as we are, not as they are. But this comment I hear all the time, Christine, and Chris, I'm sure you guys hear this, is, no one cares about there's a woman in Vienna. She's 83. She's a friend of my son who's living there. He's kind of like the landlord of my son. And she is so interesting. World War II stories that are incredible.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And I'm listening to these stories and I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to write a book. And she goes, no, nobody cares. There's already enough books written about that. No, I'm like, I mean, all out of you. But that's our self deprecation. It's like, what I have to say isn't important. What I've been through doesn't really matter. Other people are more important. When you hear that for really what it is, and don't write it for other people. Write it for you. I'll tell you what, and Chris, this goes back to your Audible expert. My oldest son, who's 38 right now, he was on a car trip that took him about the 5 hours. My book is, my Audible book is about 5 hours. And he calls me at the end of it and he's like, Mom, he goes, the biggest thing I'm so happy about is that your stories are out there, your voice, because the Audible is my voice, right? So, and I say in my dedication, it's to my grandkids, it's the legacy I want to leave. And it doesn't matter who learns what from it or what people gather. It's a piece of you that you're actually going to leave on the planet when you go. And who knows who it will touch and who cares? Like, just a piece of you, like your children. This is going to be a piece of you left on the planet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I narrate I narrate 2 podcasts, and one is a business podcast. And I work with a business coach, and I said, oh, do you have anything I can put on my business podcast? Because it's about positive change in the workplace. And she's a self-employment coach, and she said, yeah. And it's specifically, I feature female business leaders.
When am I going to be on your show? I'm just kidding, but go ahead. I'm not really,
if you have some articles about female perspective about, do you blog?
I blog, and I'm just starting that process. But finish what you were saying. I interrupted you. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I recorded it and sent it. Then forwarded the recording I made to my coach. And in the show notes is included, you know, a link to her website, so she can get more business and so more people can hear what she has to say, because they can hear it instead of just reading it.
Yeah.
And she was just thrilled. She's like, oh my gosh, hearing something not in my voice.
Mm.
She was amazed. It's like, wow. And so, you know, if you don't want, you know, if you're not really interested in narrating your own audiobook as an author, still there's wonderful narrators out there to give
Right.
your words a voice that people should hear.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Either way.
This has been great. Give your words a voice, whether in audio form or in book form. Love it. That's a great final, that's a great closing message for today. Thank you, Kim, for being my expert Q&A guest. Thank you, Chris, for popping in. Appreciate it. You can find all of us in the Inc. Authors group on Facebook. So make sure you're in the Inc. Authors group on Facebook. Tag us with your questions, your thoughts, your comments. Sounds like you two should definitely connect for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. Everybody look at the camera and wave. All right. Well, and I'll just hit the recording off now. All right. Bye. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye.
On the next expert Q&A on Inc. Authors on Facebook.